Ecclesiastes Song of Solomon. So if you find that, I want to ask if any of our little kids or smaller kids would like to come and help me this morning to show you all something. So any of our kids that would like to come for our children's message, I'm going to ask you to come on up. I have something really neat to show you today. Good morning. Oh, come on. Good morning. Okay, that's a little better. I brought something today to show you. Do you know what that is? It is a stamper. You're exactly right. But it's kind of a neat stamper. It's not one that uses ink or an ink pad. What it does is it permanently puts its mark inside the paper. So I'll take a plain piece of paper, stick it in there. Now feel that. Not only look at it, feel it. See how it made it in the paper and it can never go away. It's now raised up like a raised seal inside the paper. You see that? That's pretty neat. So now that I've made that stamp, do you think I can erase it?
No.
No, you can't. So no matter what I would try, that stamp's there and it's on the front and the back both. And there's no way to ever get rid of it. Now, we've been talking to the adults about relationships. And so let me ask, how many of you are married? Nobody's married yet. Are you engaged? No, nobody's engaged. Does anybody have a boyfriend or girlfriend? Does anybody have friends? All right, we're going to talk about friends. And we're going to talk about how every part of us is a part of each of our friends. Now, I want you to think of one friend, just a really good, special friend. What would your life be like if you didn't have that friend anymore? It'd be sad, wouldn't it? And each of our friends have a mark on us that always stays there. So I want you to just say, I have one friend, and raise one finger. Okay, everybody that has one friend, raise one finger. That friend is going to leave a mark on your finger. And that mark is always going to be there. Because that friend will always be a part of your life. Even if they move away, that friendship's still special. Now, does anybody have more than one friend? Okay, how many of you would say you have two friends? Okay, raise two. Everybody that has at least two, raise two fingers. Okay, because now every friend is different, so I'm going to use a different color. And we're going to mark that friend and how they have an effect on your life. Now, does anybody have more than two friends? Okay, let's go for three. Now, are all your three friends exactly alike? So we're going to go for a different color, aren't we? And let's do this, because now we have three friends. Anybody have four? Okay, so we have four friends. And are they all different? So they're different colors, and each one of them now has a mark. Does anybody have 5 friends? Okay, well, let's mark those two. All right, we're running out of fingers. All right. Ones don't show up very good. All right, so these are your friends, and they all have a mark. Now I want you to look at your hand, because here's the thing. Each one of those friends, just as they're different, like the different colors, they've touched your life in a really unique way. And that way will always be a part of your life. As you get older, some of your friends will change. You'll have new friends. Some of the old friends you won't even remember, you won't do anything with anymore. But they still have a part of your life. So just like now, those are permanent. Permanent markers are part of your life. Then those friends are always part of your life. And that's what I want you to remember today. As we think about relationships, every person who touches our life leaves its mark on our lives. So for that reason, we need to choose our friends wisely. All right? Let's give them a hand. Let's make our way back to your seats. And now, you turn to the Song of Solomon. I need to take a moment And I need to issue a reminder. So guys, listen to me. Tomorrow is the day. I just want to make sure you know, I warned you last week, but you need to know tomorrow is the day. And that special someone deserves something from you. You can either buy a gift, you can make a gift, they deserve, I'll tell you what. Let's do something really special. Every one of us, here's our goal tomorrow. We're going to clean the house, do the laundry, and make dinner, okay? I am seeing females look like bobblehead dolls around here. Elbows are flying and everything, but we do, remember, we need to do something because tomorrow is Valentine's Day. But as you're thinking about that, and some of you guys are going, oh my gosh, somehow I got to get something between now and tomorrow. And did you ever stop to think about, or did you know in the beginning how hard relationships were going to be? I mean, are relationships easy? They're never easy. So there's always got to be something, and let's face it, a relationship with the opposite sex is difficult. It's hard to do. And I have figured out the reason why it's so difficult. Because they are so different than we are. If you're a guy, the gals are so much different. If you're a girl, the guys are so much, I mean, look at that. They look different. They act different. They definitely think different. And the things that you think are one way, they're one that may think something else. So thinking about that, the reason our relationships with the opposite sex are so hard is because they are so different from the way we are. Now last week as we began our study in the Song of Solomon, I told you we were talking about Hebrew wisdom literature. And it's written, Song of Solomon is written in a poetic form, a Hebrew poetry. And it's totally different from the way we think and the way we talk. And as we looked at it, when we saw how the guy described his lover. And when he described his lover, he told her, he said, your hair is like the goats coming down Mount Gilead. And your teeth are like sheep, all in line, shorn and clean and ready for the shears. And I dared you. I dared every guy here to go home. And at some special time that day, look at that special someone. And as you look into their eyes, go, hey, baby, your hair's like goats. And some of you did. And now you're trying to figure out why she didn't find it near as funny as you did. And the answer is because we're different. We are so different from the opposite sex. And those difficulties put the difficulty into a love relationship. Now, last week, when we began this series, and our series is called Understanding the Opposite Sex, 5 weeks to a Greater Relationship. And last week we started by looking at, in the Song of Solomon, to look at our attractions and how we're attracted. Now, I want to tell you what my goal in this series is. I basically have a threefold goal. Number one, I want to help our singles to be attracted to the right person. Number two, I want to help strengthen our marriages. And number three, I want to help us to glorify God in our relationships. So that's kind of my goal with this series as we look at understanding the opposite sex. But last week, as we talked about attractions, we realized something very strange. We realized that who we are and what we are will help us to realize that we're attracted to. Because whoever we are and whatever we are, that's the same thing we're going to be attracted to. So if we think we're the scum of the earth, the one we're attracted to is not going to be much better. And because our attractions are determined by who we are and what we are. And we decide, hey, I don't think I'm much of myself, I'm going to settle for less. We think more of ourselves, we raise our standards a little bit. So it's important for us to see if we're going to understand the opposite sex, who we're attracted to. But we all know that relationships go beyond just attraction. And we know that there are steps to that. So today, we're going to take that relationship to the next step beyond that attraction. And we're going to talk about dating. Now, when we talk about attraction, last week I did the survey, and some of you said you were in a marriage relationship. And some of you said you were in an engaged-to-be married relationship. And some of you said you were in a dating relationship. And some of you said you were in a I would like to be dating relationship. Well, today we're going to add a new category to that, okay? So, how many of you are in a marriage relationship? Raise your hand. Don't be ashamed of them. It's okay. All right. How many of you are in an engaged-to-be married relationship? All right. Well, good. How many of you are in a dating relationship? How many of you are in a I would like to be dating relationship? Okay. How many of you are in a I'm still thinking about the waiter from Friday night relationship? Now, see, if you weren't there, you don't know what I'm talking about. But everybody was there knows exactly everything about Gentry. But this morning, we're going to take that relationship just a little bit further as we look at what the Bible teaches us in this wisdom literature about our dating relationships. So we're going to pick up where we left off last time. We're in Song of Solomon, chapter 1. We're going to start with verse 7. So here's what verse 7 says. Please tell me, you whom I love, where do you graze your flock? Where does your flock lie down at noon? Tell me, or I will be considered a prostitute, wandering among the flocks of your companions. From this verse, we're going to see a couple things. But the first thing I want us to see from this is dating is more than physical attraction. Dating is more than just a physical attraction. So that's your number one. Dating is more than physical attraction. And here's why I tell you that, and I keep saying it over and over. Because so many folks look for attraction as that reason to date. They're thinking about that girl and they're going, man, she looked good in my truck. She looked good on my arm. Folks would look at her with me and they go, oh, he must be somebody, because look at that. And a lot of times, when we think about relationships, we think about that attraction. But dating is more than just that physical attraction, because dating forms more than just physical bonds. Dating also forms emotional bonds. When we begin the dating process, we form a bond with that person of the opposite sex. And I don't care at what level that dating process begins. We form a bond, and that bond will always be a part of our life. We may think it's just a date. We're just going out. But if we're in that dating process, it's going to form a bond in our lives, and that bond will always be a part of our life because of that dating process. I ran into a guy I knew a while back, and I hadn't seen him for a long time, so I went up and like, hey, how are you? And we kind of exchanged the pleasantries. And there was a young lady there with him, and he says, this is my friend, and gave her name. And folks, I won't tell you, but the look on her face, she thought she was more than a friend. Because of that bond that had been formed in that dating relationship. And so she wasn't really happy. Because he said, this is my friend. I think she thought she was girlfriend. Because that emotional bond had been formed. And when that bond starts forming in that relationship, and then we break up with that person, we take a piece of that person with us for the rest of our life. So every time we form that bond, we have that part of that relationship. And I'm going to give you an illustration this morning. So I brought a bowl full of candy hearts. And this represents my heart. And we're going to talk about my relationships or my dating. And maybe we can say my dating started way back in elementary school. Past those years where girls had cute cooties. But all of a sudden, I started looking at those girls, and I saw this one, man, she is so pretty. Wonder if she'd be my girlfriend. Some of the other guys had girlfriends, some of the other girls had boyfriends, and I'm thinking, she is so pretty. And so I did what any elementary school child would do. I wrote her a note. Would you be my girlfriend? Check yes or check no. And I sent it to a friend, who gave it to a friend, who passed it around the classroom, and even after the teacher looked at it, she ended up with it. And she looked at it, and it said, will you be my girlfriend, yes or no? Dan. And she looked at it. And there in the middle of math class, she looked at me, and she looked at that, and she takes out her pencil, and she checks yes. And she is now my girlfriend. And she is so pretty. She has a piece of my heart. But it's elementary school. A week later, another guy sends her a note that says, will you be my girlfriend, yes or no? And she looks at him, and she looks at me, and she says yes and sends the note back to him. But then we move up to middle school. And by middle school, I was noticing girls then. And I'm thinking, I'll need more than just pretty. So I'm looking at these girls. And I saw this girl and I said, she has the prettiest smile I've ever seen. So I work up the courage and I go and ask her, will you be my girlfriend? You have the prettiest smile. And she said, yes. A little further back. Still wrong place. Can you catch that? Okay. But guess what? All of a sudden one day she didn't have that smile. And she looked at me and she went, and I knew it was over. But then high school rolled around. By high school I had my driver's license. And I'm thinking, what do I want in a female? And I'm thinking, I want a female that likes the things that I like. I want a female that likes sports. And I want a female that likes family. And I want a female that likes kids. And I'm thinking, I found just the female. And she said yes. Too far. All right. There you go. I got the right person that time. But guess what? That didn't work out either. But then I become a young adult. And my priorities start changing. And I'm thinking, pretty? That's it. I like pretty. And like some things, I like that too. But I want a woman. I want a girlfriend that does something really special. She's got to be able to cook. So I found one that could cook. Wrong way. You ever tried throwing candy? All right. Sooner or later, this will go get to Miss Hill. All right. That's all I can try. You in the back row, you're not getting candy. Sorry. But that didn't work out either. Now, I know we've had a lot of fun, and you saw my poor skills at throwing. But one day, I met that special someone. That one that I knew I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And I wanted to offer her my love. And I wanted to give her my heart. But guess what? Because of all those emotional attachments that I've had along the way, and all those pieces of my heart that I've given away, I no longer had my whole heart to give her. Dating is more than a physical attraction. Because every time you form that relationship, you give away a piece of your heart. And when that special someone comes along, and you want to give them that something special, you can no longer give them all your heart. Because you've given them away. But you give them all you can. But the thing we need to know we need to know that every time we give away a piece of our heart. But I need you to know something else from that verse. Not only is dating more than physical attraction, your second thing is dating needs to be in the open. Look at that verse again in your Bibles. And it says, tell me where you keep your flocks so I can come to you. And when I come to you, I will come with my veil off, she said. Now, we have to understand the culture of that day. Well, we need to know that in that day, the guys would go out and they would be at the flocks and the herds. And when they come in, it was kind of like some of our cultures today. They would come in and there was all these women that would hang around where all the men were coming in. And they'd be veiled women and they would serve as prostitutes. And this lady says, when I come to you, I'm coming with my veil off. And I want to know where you're at because I don't want anybody to think I'm a prostitute. I'm your girl, and you're my guy. And from that, we need to know dating cannot be hidden. There should be nothing hidden in dating. The world will know that you're my man, and the world will know that I'm your girl. I'm not like these other prostitutes. I'm not like these other girls. I'm yours, and I belong to you. I'm your lover, so why should we be sneaking around? And you know, often I see in those who are dating, it's like, we're dating, but don't tell anybody. We're dating, but don't let mom and dad know. Dating needs to be in the open. But at the same time, there needs to be no secrets in dating. Nothing hidden. And, you know, when I think about relationship, we need to know that nothing in that dating relationship needs to be done in secret. The Bible tells us, avoid all appearance of evil. That's why when we're dating, we should never be alone with somebody from the opposite sex. We should never be alone with somebody from the opposite sex unless it is our spouse. And that just needs to be a good policy for life. Because the Bible tells us, avoid all appearance of evil. I won't go somewhere with someone who is of the opposite sex unless someone else is with me. I won't get into a car with a female unless it's my wife or somebody else is there. I won't have discussions with a female alone in a private place. Because the Bible tells us, avoid all appearance of evil. And you're looking at me and some of you are going, oh, Pastor, that's extreme. That's going too far. You know, I have good friends. I can be with them, and I know nothing's going to happen or nothing's going to take. And I trust me, and I trust them. But you know what? It's not extreme. It's smart. I may not intend for anything to happen. I may know nothing's going to happen. It's just a friendship. It's just a trip. It's just a discussion. But I also know I'm a man. And I also know that the Bible teaches me my sin nature is just as great as anybody else's sin nature. We all have that same nature to sin. And I know that being a man with a sin nature, there can be that stumble. I need to keep everything in the open. Over the years of ministry, I'll tell you, I've sat down with many couples who are struggling. I've sat down with those who are struggling in marriage. I've sat down with those who are struggling in the dating relationship. And you know, here's something in all those discussions I've had that I've never heard. I've never had someone come to me and go, you know, we were up at the Walmart. We were in the clearance aisle. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and right there by last month's case for whatever version of iPhone was last month, we just couldn't control ourselves. Nobody has ever told me that. But you know what I hear quite often? We were all alone. Our parents were in the other room. The lights were low. We were snuggling. We were sitting in the car by ourselves just talking. And that's where the problem began. This woman says, when I come to you, I'm coming with my veil off and everybody's going to know I'm your gal and you're my guy. Dating needs to be in the open. Dating is more than a physical attraction. And number 3, dating needs accountability. Dating needs accountability. Verse 8 of Song of Solomon chapter 1 says, if you do not know, most beautiful of women, follow the tracks of the flocks and graze your young goats near the shepherd's tent. Now let me explain to you a little bit about what's going on here. Throughout this story, there's 3 different voices talking. And last week as we looked at it, we saw the guy talking about the gal, and we saw the gal talking about the guy. Well, the third voice that we find here, in some of your translations it may call them the friends, or the friends of Israel, or the friends of Jerusalem, the daughters of Jerusalem. And what that is, the third voice we see here is the friends. And verse 8 is the friends talking when they say, oh beautiful, talking to the female, and says, follow the tracks of the flocks and graze your young goats near the shepherd's tent. Here's the advice that these friends are giving. Keep it around where the flocks are. Don't go wandering off somewhere. Don't be alone. You're dating. You're avoiding all appearance of evil. Keep it beside the shepherd's tent. That way there's people there. It's public. That there's folks. And nothing's going to happen just like it's not going to happen in the clearance aisle at Walmart. Because there's people there. But when you put yourself away from others, that's where the temptation is. These friends are saying, keep it where there's people. Keep it where the folks are. There needs to be accountability in dating. I don't care if you're 18. I don't care if you're 28. I don't care if you're 88. You need to have accountability in your dating relationship. Now, let me tell you what often happens when we begin dating. When we begin dating, now we found that special someone, and I'm not talking about elementary school dating, check yes or no. I'm talking about we're going places. I'm taking her out to eat or taking her somewhere to do something fun. And thinking through that, what often happens to your other friends? Because now you're spending more time with that special someone, and your friends kind of get pushed aside. Doesn't that happen? I can remember when I was a young man, and there were 3 of us that we hung out all the time. Every weekend we were going to Morgantown, and we were doing this or that, and had a good time together. If we didn't go to Morgantown, we'd gather at somebody's house and shoot pool, and just have a bunch of fun, and one of them found a girlfriend. So he wasn't part of the weekends anymore. Then he got married. Then the second one found a girlfriend, and he wasn't part of that, just left me. And it wasn't no fun to go play pool with yourself. It wasn't fun to go run around Morgantown with yourself. And that happens to a lot of us. But what she's saying here is you need to also pay attention to your friends. Because there needs to be accountability. And I'm going to tell you something. If your Christian friends warn you about that dating relationship, take notice. Pay attention. God may be leading them to show you something before you fall in over your head. When your Christian friends say, hey, I don't see you anymore, you need to ask, do I still have an accountability? Somebody that's going to say, hey, you need to be careful here. You need to watch out. Proverbs 15:22 says, without advice, plans go wrong. But with many advisors, they succeed. If you're hiding your dates from your Christian friends, you might want to be careful. Because dating needs accountability. If you can't bring them home to meet your parents, you probably shouldn't be in that relationship. Because dating needs accountability. We need to know. Dating needs accountability. Dating is not just physical attraction. And dating needs to be in the open. But the fourth thing I want you to see today is dating needs standards. There needs to be standards in our dating. We need to set some guidelines. And we need to make sure we follow those guidelines. So verse 9 says this, my true love, I compare you to a mare among Pharaoh's stallions. Now, as you read that, you have to keep in mind, this is wisdom literature. This is Hebrew poetry. He is not comparing her to a horse. So guys, I'm not going to dare you, because some of you will do that too. Do not try this at home. He is not comparing her to a horse here, but what he's saying is she is beautiful. She is elegant. He loves to see her. And he's told her, my true love, you are the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. He's proud to be seen with her. So he compliments her. As you look at verses 10 and 11, you see some of the compliments he gives her. And again, this is something a little different than we would say, but he said, your cheeks, I'll put it into our language. Your cheeks are beautiful with earrings. Your neck is lovely adorned with pearls. And what he's saying is, you are so beautiful. You're so elegant. I love the way you look. In verses 12, 13, and 14, the girl begins to talk about the guy that she's so proud of. And as she does, she says this in verse 14, my beloved is a bouquet of hair flowers in the vineyards of Engedi. And hair flowers, or some translations will say camphor, contains an essential oil that's used to make perfume. And by doing that, what he is saying is it was something used to enhance beauty. And she's saying, my guy has a beauty that continues to grow. Why? Because there's standards. And we need to set standards in our dating. And as we think about that, there are some standards that we need to say. This is my line. I will not cross it. I won't we won't do anything physical till we're married. He won't see my body. She won't see my body until we're married. We need to have standards. And our standards need to be, we'll be dating, but I'm not going to turn my back on my friends either. You will grow to like my friends, or will not be dating. And when we take these things and set standards, we need to stick to those standards. What this girl's saying about her guy, as we get down to those verses where she's talking about how he's like a perfume that lingers and smells so good. She said, this relationship I have with him, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. There's only one way that can happen. Folks, I want you to know there's only one way that we can have a relationship that can keep growing and growing and growing. And that's if we have Jesus at the center of that relationship. We can't do it on our own. We'll let our standards slip. We'll turn our backs on our accountability. We'll give away pieces of our heart till we have nothing left to give. But if we have Jesus as the center of that relationship, guys, gals, let me be clear. If he won't come to church with you now, he won't later. I know of very few exceptions, but there are a few. But normally, if he doesn't believe like you believe, you're probably not going to change him. If he doesn't have your standards of ethics, he's never going to. If he's controlling your life now, if he's the guy who, I need to know everywhere you go, I need to know everything you do. Young ladies, young men, if they're putting Life 360 on your phone in a dating relationship, end that relationship. Because it won't get any better. We need to have standards. And stick to those standards. And the only way we can stick to those standards is we keep Jesus as the center of that relationship. How do you do that? How do you do it? It starts with us. It starts with Jesus has to be the most important thing in our life. Because if he's not, we won't worry about the standards. We won't worry about the count. We're just in it for us. So for us, it starts with Jesus as the center of our world. And maybe today for you, he's not there yet. But he can be. What Jesus wants to do is he wants to forgive your sin. He wants to be the Lord of your life. And the Lord means that you follow him, not try to go your own way. And maybe for you this morning, God's speaking to you on the inside, kind of talking to your spirit and saying, you need to give your life to Jesus. You need to trust him in that personal relationship with him. Then today could be the day of your salvation. Or maybe you're here today and you know that there was a day that you were saved, but you haven't been following Jesus. Or you've been following him at a huge distance. Maybe today for you, it's time to get closer. Because if he's going to be the center of your relationship, he has to be the center of your life. So maybe for you today, it's time to just say, God, forgive me my sin. And I will turn from that sin and follow you. Or maybe you're here today, and there's things going on in your life that shouldn't be. Things that the Bible declares as sin. And you need to say, God, forgive me of that sin. I'm going to put those things out of my life so that I can follow you. Maybe today, to have God as the center of your relationship, he needs to be the center of your life. And if that's the case, then change that today. But maybe you're here as a Christian, and maybe you're letting Jesus can lead your life and you're following him. But you're saying, I don't know about that relationship I'm in. Then I'm going to ask you to do something. I was bold a while ago. I told you to end the relationship. I shouldn't have done it. I'm going to challenge you to pray. And pray and say, Lord, am I in the dating relationship I'm supposed to be in? Because I don't want to give my heart away if this is not the one. And maybe today you are one of those who raised your hand and said, I would like to be in a dating relationship. Then I will challenge you to pray for that person that God has in store for you. That person is going to be your helpmeet, your equal. And ask God to lead you to them. Relationships are hard. Dating is tough. But to do it, we need Jesus. See, Pastor Dan, I know what you're saying is right. But I don't know what to do. I'm in a relationship, maybe I shouldn't be. She's controlling, he's controlling. I've already turned my back on my friends. What do I do? Start changing back today. And do that as you go to Jesus. Or maybe you're here and you started following the world's standards for dating. Because you've already figured out this morning, the world's standards for dating and God's standards for dating are totally different, aren't they? Maybe today your change needs to be, Lord, I want to follow your standards for dating. Our world teaches us so many messed up things. Last Friday night we had our church Valentine banquet. We had a great time. We played some fun games. But I picked up one game. I found it on the internet. And it was questions to ask couples. I didn't even print it off because it was filled with the world's standards for dating. One of those questions was, on what number of dates did you first have sex? And I'm thinking, no, we don't even want to go there. Because the world says it's okay to have that type of relationship when you're just dating. And the game said it was fine. Go ahead and tell us today. The Bible tells us that sex is designed for marriage. And God blesses that couple in that encounter. And you didn't give away your heart in other ways. I want you to remember a couple things today. I want you to remember that dating is more than a physical attraction. I want you to remember that dating needs to be in the open, nothing secret. I want you to remember that there needs to be accountability. Keep your friends close. And I want you to remember that there needs to be standards. Set your standards high and stick to them. And when we get dating right, then we better understand the opposite sex. Now there's a fifth thing I want you to know today. And that fifth thing is dating never ends. Dating never ends. Teenager, I challenge you to pray to God to lead you to that person you'll be attracted to. Now, I know. I can almost see it in your face. Some of you are sitting there going, Pastor Dan, you're old. You don't know what dating's like today. Guys have not changed since Adam. I do know what dating's like today. And I challenge you to pray for that person. You know, sometimes we think, I can find that perfect someone on my own. I don't need to pray to God. I don't need His guidance. I'll find that perfect someone. Yeah, that's why we date 20 people before we're married. And that's why over 60% of marriages end in divorce. Because we can find that special someone on our own, can't we? Teenagers, please pray that God leads you to that special one. If you're here today and you're a single adult, I want to challenge you to keep God's order of dating in your life. Starts with attraction, then dating, then marriage. And don't let things go the way they shouldn't before their time. Maybe today you're here and you're a married couple. I want to challenge you as a married couple, continue to date. No, you don't have to take her out to the movies or the bowling alley or those fun places we took dates as teenagers. You know what dating is? Dating is getting to know them better. Spending time with them. Some pretty day, go for a drive. Go out and sit on the front porch for a while. Leave the phones in the house. Don't let dating end. What needs to change? God's already told us. Now the question is, will we obey? Will you obey in your life God's plan for dating? We're going to sing another song, and as we do, I'm going to give you that time to pray. Maybe you need to ask God's forgiveness. Maybe you need to surrender your life to Him. But right where you're at, just pray. If you want to come and kneel here at the front of the church, make this your altar to pray. Then come and pray. But folks, let's don't leave here today if we've not surrendered to God's plan for dating in our life. Lord God, thank you so much for your word. And God, I thank you for the things your word teaches us. And it's not things we want to know in our lives or we want to follow, but we know it's right. And we know it's what we need to do. So Lord, today I pray for every person who needs to hear what your Spirit's saying, that we will say yes and follow you. It's in Jesus' name we pray.